Let's go to Vikas Bajaj, who joins us out in San Diego. He's an incredible criminal defense attorney out in California. And I'm trying to focus the discussion because there's a lot of places we can go all at once, but I want to stay first with the headline, which is tonight this jury has found that Kellen Winslow II, former football star, man who earned $40 million during his career, his father, local legend there in San Diego, this guy, they say, is a rapist, Vic.
Well, that's correct, and I have to tell you, I'm very disappointed in a number of things that I'm sure we'll touch on later, but you're correct in those very powerful words. They've convicted him of being a rapist, but I will tell you that one thing that's concerning me is, again, the elephant in the room. We always worry in cases like this about compromised verdicts, and when you have horrible witnesses and you have one that's kind of holding a little bit of water, well, you'd hate to believe that the jury came back and said, we have to find him guilty of something, so we're going to find the most believable. And that's what we've heard with your prior guest there, the most believable victim. And that is, in fact, Jane Doe 2 in this case. The jury, for all intents and purposes, they've reached their verdict. Sleeping on it overnight is really just something that's unnecessary in my book. And you know I try cases in this jurisdiction and others routinely, trials. And I've never seen this type of an order of operations. Sleep on it a little more, even though you've told us now that you are hopelessly deadlocked. Hopelessly deadlocked. Actually a legal term. It sounds like something we talk about over a cup of coffee. But hopelessly deadlocked is powerful. That means no matter what you say, Judge, no matter how much you give us to sleep on it, we've already reached an inability to come to these conclusions. I think the judge should have taken that verdict.
He
and
didn't,
then they should have
though.
dealt with whether the prosecution.
He didn't, Vic. And we're going to be back tomorrow on Verdict Watch. It continues here, folks. Hey, our 13th juror question, folks. If you were a juror, do you think you'd have a clear picture of what happened between Kellen Winslow II and the 5 Jane Does? Let us know. Go to our Facebook page. It's Court TV is our handle. Vote yes, no. Leave a comment. Your reaction to what the jury has said tonight as well. Let me bring back in my think tank. And Trinity, do you think it's going to work here? Do you think this jury could potentially tomorrow come back, send a note saying, hey, we reached another verdict?
Well, I think the thing that they've got going for them in terms of reaching more of a verdict tomorrow is that, you know, people towards the end of the day were probably looking to get home, right? And so it's easier to say, we're deadlocked, we're done, let us go home, let us be completely finished. But now that the judge is bringing them back, they're incentivized to keep trying. They know they're going to be there at least all day tomorrow. They're going to miss work. They're going to be out. They might as well give it another go. I think there's a chance we could have some more guilty verdicts or not guilty verdicts tomorrow.
Michael?
I don't know. You know, it's tough to say. I think it could go either way. I think right now they really are deadlocked on those issues. You know, if the decision had to be made tonight, that'd be it. It'd be a mistrial. I honestly think so. Tomorrow that might change given the amount of time they're going to have to really review everything. But for now, I think it definitely could have been mistrial.
Yeah. Have you ever seen, Lieutenant Colonel, in any cases where you've been a witness where the jury was deadlocked and they came back and then had the verdict?
Never. I truly believe, like Michael, I believe they have made their decision. I don't see anything really changing. I might be wrong. I've been wrong before. But I think that they have made their decision, and when they come in tomorrow, they're going to probably hear the same thing.
All right, let me go to Vikas Bajaj out in San Diego. Vic, now I want to put the actual note up on the screen because there's one word missing that you mentioned. They say we remain deadlocked on all remaining charges. They're not hopelessly deadlocked. They're just plain old deadlocked, Vic. They could reach a verdict tomorrow, right?
They can if everything goes wrong. I mean, let me tell you something. What the judge did this afternoon is give an Allen charge again. Okay, so the first time he asked juror number, was it 6? I'm not sure who the jury 4 person is.
Number 6.
Whoever the jury 4 person is, this young man who's in, number 6. You know, he said, well, maybe it would help or maybe not. I'm not sure. That's an Allen charge. The way that translates is go back and deliberate. So that's Allen charge number 1. And now you give Allen charge number 2. Now, I understand the other side of it is, well, they're not deliberating together, therefore it's not a real deliberation on record. I think that's hogwash. That's not the way it is in reality. They're going to sleep on it. They're going to think about it. They're going to come back and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I didn't consider this while I was catching my Z's at night, and that's dangerous. The defense earned a mistrial, And it sounds to me, frankly, and I practice right here, so maybe I'm biting the hand that feeds me, but in reality it sounds like the judge is doing whatever he can to make sure these jurors ask for more. Can I have more argument? Can I see more evidence? Can I have more of the specifics on the law? I don't know if that's the right call here. The jury's made their decision. They're deadlocked. Hopelessly or not, they're deadlocked. Now, in regards to how this plays out statistically, as you referenced in your opening on this segment here, I will tell you, every time one of my juries has had an Allen charge, they came back hung. They never changed their decision. And when you talk to jurors, jurors don't like the Allen charge, because you have to understand, you have 12 people back there who have together said, we're going to go out there and we're going to tell the judge and the court that we can't reach a decision. And then you have the judge on the ivory tower saying, go back and think about it, kids. There's more to think about. I think that's a little offensive, and jurors take that in an offensive way, and I don't see it changing the hung jury that we should see on these remaining counts tomorrow morning.
Our guest in San Diego, our friend Vic, is not going to be happy with what alternate number 3 said. Exactly why, though, I'm not sure. So why don't you tell us, Vic, why is this a huge problem?
I think Vinny, you may be telling me I'm just an unhappy guy. I don't think that that's true, but Lieutenant Colonel was right about this. There's an underlying concern, whether that concern is based upon how he speaks, how he acts, how intelligent alternate juror number 3 perceives number 12 to be. All of these are things that need to be, crumpled up and thrown right into the trash can. We are entitled to a jury of our peers. Some are Albert Einsteins of the world, and some aspire to be that. But we don't make those kind of judgments. I'd agree with your guest there in your studio live that there's something else that concerns alternate juror number 3. I can tell you my wife has English as a second language. She doesn't know what kind of big TV other than it was the best and the biggest one she could possibly pick out of a catalog. Well, that doesn't mean that she's inept and can't be on a jury. So there are just so many offensive things underlying, I think, alternate juror number 3's comments, and I think we should leave it at that. But you're right about that. I'm not happy about his comments.
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing, though, about juror number 12, and the reason why it stuck out to us here, is that our reporters, Julie Janae and Chandler Painter, have noticed a lot, but more reactions from him in the jury box than anyone else. He's like the easiest to read. And when they go to breaks, many times he's by himself. He's alone. And it might be for any number of reasons. But that's why juror 12 was already sort of on our radar. Do you think there's anything more to all of this? Is it possible that this is the holdout one way or the other?
Possibly. I mean, we know that the jurors are really tight together, that they have this, they talked about this almost like friendship that they have, and it's a very tight-knit community. Whether or not maybe he's just the lone wolf, maybe, and, whether or not the defense is counting on him to sort of keep that hung jury at this point, possibly.
Yeah, and I mean, they're watching him just as like you guys are, right? They're watching his actions, they're watching who he's hanging out with, and if they think they only need one, and if they think he's that one, they think he's the one that's kind of going rogue, that's all you want, they're not going to want to get rid of him.
Yeah. So looking at where we're still hung on Jane Doe's 1 and 4 here tonight. Number 1, Lieutenant Colonel, obviously we had the reaction. Everyone had the same reaction, that this is a problem. Her daughter comes in to testify to try to bolster her testimony. Some people found it bolstering. Other people found, that makes things even worse when we talk about Jane Doe number 1. Then we have 4, who was the most emotional of all. There was no testimony that was more compelling than hers during the course of the testimony, because the way she took us back to that night and the way she described it. Are you surprised that Jane Doe number 4, there has not been a verdict on hers? Because I guess the baggage is some inconsistency in some of the statements.
I'm not at all surprised. I mean, you have to look at the amount of time that has gone by since that incident or alleged incident. And I think they had a problem. Most people have a problem with, when there's a lot of time in between the time of the incident and when you reported the incident. I know that really means nothing. If you know anything about sexual assault investigations, sometimes people wait years to come out and reveal that they were sexually assaulted. So we can't blame the victim when you come to cases that are when there's a lot of years in between. But I think what happened there was that the jury probably struggled with the amount of time that had gone by. She admittedly was intoxicated or under the influence of something, alcohol or whatever at the time. So is it possible it wasn't Kellen Winslow, it was somebody else? You just don't know.
And the other part of this, as we sit here tonight, and again, folks, deliberations will continue tomorrow on the 8 counts that there's been no verdict on, which focus on Jane Doe's 1 and 4 primarily. Trinity, someone believes Jane Doe won beyond a reasonable doubt. At least one. Otherwise, it would be a not guilty already. So there's a juror or jurors that believe her beyond a reasonable doubt. On the other hand, there are folks who don't believe Jane Doe number 4 beyond a reasonable doubt. Is there any way for a compromise?
Yeah, and I think that's what Vic's saying he was concerned about when they go home and they think about it, and that you've got some of these other ones. Did they come to a compromise with regard to that one? Okay, we can all agree. You give me 4, I'll
give you 1.
Yeah, we all agree on 2, so let's just go with that, right? And we can agree on the other 2 little minor things. Let's stop there. But are they going to come and compromise on 1 and 4? I think that's the real danger that's sitting out there for the defense attorney. Are they going to come to some sort of compromise and say, okay, I'll give you this one instead of you giving me that one? And that's the real danger of them going home tonight, is that they come back and do that.
And Michael, one of the other things that's been tossed around here by the judge is that there's a potential for some more closing arguments.
Exactly.
Have you ever done that, closing arguments after the verdict?
Honestly, no. I mean, the whole case is extremely unusual, right? Even just sort of get this piecemeal verdict out and for them to still be hung on certain counts and you get some, and the whole way that this is proceeding is really unusual. It's very rare to see something like this. Whether they come back and if they need more jury instruction, if they need more argument, it's certainly possible they could.
Yeah. Would you need time to prepare, or do you think you can make that argument immediately if the judge wanted you to?
Tonight, those defense attorneys are going home and they're preparing to make more arguments, do whatever they need to do, to possibly even, sway the jurors, not just from maybe a hung verdict, but maybe to not guilty.
Vic, have you ever seen closing arguments after a verdict?
I have not. Of all the trials I've handled, I have not seen it. I still would be extremely surprised if Judge Bowman allowed that to happen tomorrow. But for a quick moment, Vinny, if I can please dovetail off of what one of your guests just indicated, which is Jane Doe number 1. We're talking about Jane Doe number 1 and whether she was believable, perhaps bolstered by her daughter's testimony, perhaps quite the opposite. But I would ask, hasn't the jury, in essence, already acquitted Kellen Winslow Jr. of Jane Doe number 1's account? Because we understand there's a multiple victim allegation that's attached to the count with the principal victim being Jane Doe number 2. Now that multiple victim allegation has been found to be not true. Now we know that allegations used to be easy to find under a preponderance of the evidence. However, because it increases punishments in most cases, as it would here, to a potential life top, a big case, Apprendi versus New Jersey, United States Supreme Court. Every lawyer knows about this if they're arguing criminal cases. And this one says that if it's something that can increase the punishment, you have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So I query, rhetorically perhaps, has the jury already acquitted Kellen Winslow Jr. of the crimes alleged by Jane Doe 1 by not finding the truth to the allegation that the prosecutor wanted, that being the multiple victims allegation?
Absolutely. That's a great point, Vic. Huge. That's huge tonight, and could be an indication on the way they're thinking, or could be a real issue if there's a verdict of guilty down the road. All right. Thanks so much, Chandler. Let's check back in with our think tank, and we're short on time here, so let me start with Vic. Only have about 15, 20 seconds per person. So what do you expect to happen tomorrow in 15 seconds?
I think the jury is going to come back well-rested, having their cocoa at night, talking with their significant others about how their life is going to get back to normal. They're going to remain hung on the remaining counts, and this hot potato is going to end up quickly back in the district attorney's lap.
All right, thanks, Vic. Lieutenant Colonel Adam Lee.
I agree with Vic. I mean, look at Jane Doe number 1, the fence incident. Had a hard time with that. The GoFundMe page. She was untruthful on the stand in concerning her alcohol use or lack thereof. Number 3, You know, they use the GPS app, so I think that was sort of clear there. Number 4, a lot of time went by, and then you had a missing witness that could have corroborated her story. I don't know what happened to Mr. Vaughn. He still
never showed up
to be seen.
All right.
And number 5, you know, I'm still shocked at that one.
Trinity?
Well, I'm going to disagree. You know, logic would tell us that they should come back tomorrow and still be deadlocked, but nothing in this case has been logical and nothing has been as we expect. So I'm going to think that they may change.
All right, expect a verdict tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I think we're going to have a very unhappy judge. I think that they're going to stick to the way they are. I think their minds are made up. I think this is a hung jury. I think that this is going to end up being a second trial on all the counts that they're basically hung up on.
Great job by the think tank. Don't forget, folks, we continue on a verdict watch despite the fact that we've had a verdict already. Continue to watch our coverage right here on Court TV. Have a wonderful night. And don't forget to hug the kids.